साधु हृदय सदृशं चन्द्रं भज मानस.
The skies have always fascinated man. We have been observing this limitless celestial expanse for generations with wonder. One of the long-standing traditional practices in this land of India has been astronomy. It is called Jyotisha. The word Jyotisha comes from the word Jyoti, meaning to illumine. As the name suggests, this body of knowledge is about the astral bodies that emit light. This word Jyotisha, while is used to denote astronomy, is also used in a popular parlance to describe astrology. Astrology is a predictive field, whereas astronomy is more exact. Astrology is known as Phalita Jyotisha, whereas astronomy is called Ganita Jyotisha, a mathematical observational science. It is also called as Siddhanta Jyotisha, an exact science. This differentiation is in their names. What is the differentiation we see in the sky?
Phalita Jyotisha or astrology is the study of sun, moon and the 5 planets and their rotation in the sky along a narrow path which is called the zodiac belt. It deals with the effect that this motion has on the earth and the earthlings. Whereas Siddhanta Jyotisha or Ganita Jyotisha is an observational science. It's a mathematical science that deals with the study of all the objects in the sky, the stars, the planets, the galaxies. It deals with their characteristics like the size, their speed of movement, the luminosity and so on. So it is a more observational and a mathematical study. Therefore, if you look at it, Siddhanta Jyotisha is a much more holistic study of the skies and Phalita Jyotisha or astrology is just one part of this.
The West had adopted the heliocentric model only about 400 years back. That too, after Galileo proposed it after much stiff resistance. Before that, it was the geocentric model that was known. In stark contrast to this, in the Indian texts, in Ganita Jyotisha, in the Veda and the whole body of Indian texts, it was the heliocentric model and beyond.
Heliocentric comes from the Greek word helios, meaning sun. In this view, the sun is at the center of everything in the sky. Ganita Jyotish or astronomy, with its inclination for accurate recordings, has always held a heliocentric viewpoint. This is clearly indicated by a shloka in the Rig Veda compiled over 5,000 years ago.
Om Ayangau Prishnirakrami Dasanan Mataram Punam Pitarancha Prayantsuva Om.
According to this shloka, the moon, which is a satellite of the earth, revolves around its mother planet and follows it in revolution around the self-luminous planet, the sun, that is, the father planet. This shloka very clearly states that 5,000 years ago itself, the Indians knew and had recorded the heliocentric concept and mentioned that in all the 4 Vedas.
And not only that, the Veda explain in very simple terms the heliocentric revolution of the earth and the rotation of the earth. For example, they explain this using how the wheel of a chariot turns on its own keel as it moves forward along the road, to explain how the earth rotates on its own axis as well as goes around the sun. This very clearly shows that this knowledge was not meant or limited for the scholars alone, but it was also meant for the common man.
In our daily worship, in the temples, when we see the Navagraha shrine, where we propitiate the planets, we see the sun is placed in the center. That the sun is in the center was common knowledge in ancient India, much before it came to be known in the Western world. This is evident in the Navagraha shrine in temples all across India, where we see the sun in the center and the various planets and graha all around it. This is not some knowledge that has been tucked away in some palm leaf manuscript or in some obscure document. It is there for all to see in every Navagraha shrine, in temple after temple, village after village, all over the land, that the sun is in the center. That's why the solar system is called Surya Malika. Mala means garland, and each of these planets is a garland around the sun. This concept is also called as Gurutvakarshana, where the word Akarshana means to attract, and all these planets are attracted and held by the gravity of the sun. It's called Gurutva, that which holds on to. It's from this word Gurutva that we get the English word gravity. By contrast, since the study of astral bodies and how they affect the life on earth is central to the theme of Phalita Jyotisha, astrology, the concept was geocentric. To promote the discovery of the heliocentric thought of Western astronomy in the medieval period, selective extracts from Phalita Jyotisha were taken to show that the Indian astronomy was also geocentric.
The ancient texts also mention 5 types of revolution called the Pancha Mandala. Pancha means 5, Mandala means the path or the orbit of revolution. The first one is called Chandra Mandala. Here the moon goes around the earth in its monthly path. This has long been known to all civilizations from time immemorial. Next comes Prithvi Mandala. Here the earth goes around the sun. This was disputed by medieval Europe, but this knowledge of the earth going around the sun has been common knowledge in this land of India. The third one is Surya Mandala. This expresses the path of the sun going around the center of its mother galaxy, Akash Ganga. This has also been accepted very recently, whereas the texts talk about this concept more than 5,000 years ago. The Yajurveda, Aruna Prashna, records the observations of a lady rishi called Kavi, describing the Surya Mandala.
Om Apashyamahametat Surya Mandalam Parivartamanam. Om.
I see the Surya Mandala revolving, along with it many suns. The Parmeshti Mandala is a group of galaxies spinning together around their center. This has been confirmed less than 2 decades ago by modern scientists. And the last is the Swayambhu Mandala. Modern science does not speak of this at this moment. This is a concept of there being one single point which has been undeciphered or not understood, from which the Big Bang happened, the point where all the galaxies will converge at the end of this cycle of creation.
This places the observational recordings in the Siddhanta Jyotisha or Ganita Jyotisha texts to be viewed in a new light. For after all, the word Jyotish means that which throws light. Jyoti. Jyoti means to glow, light. It is also called the eye of the Veda. Jyotisha is that which enables one to see.
These texts of Ganita Jyotisha not only confirm phenomena of what we have observed today in modern astronomy, they go far beyond and express things that we have not yet observed in the present cosmology. By modern convention, when a new star is identified, it is either named after its discoverer or given an alphanumeric name. In contrast to this, in Indian astronomy, every star, astral body, is given a name based on its phenomena or the property that it represents. This is a striking aspect of Indian astronomy.
Venus has been called Shukra, means white and bright. Venus is indeed the brightest of all planets when seen from the Earth. Mars is called Lohitang, meaning made of loha, iron. Analysis of the samples from NASA's space probes to Mars have revealed that it indeed contains iron deposits. Its Sanskrit name, Lohitang, meaning full of iron, had always indicated so. Jupiter is called Brihaspati. Brihad means large. For example, as in Brihadishwara temple, for the large Shiva temple at Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu, or Brihan Mumbai for Greater Mumbai. The word Brihad comes from the root Brah, meaning to grow, expand, to enlarge. We see today that Jupiter indeed is the largest planet in the solar system. Amongst the planets, Venus appears the brightest in the sky and hence could well have been thought to be the larger body. Yet our ancients had deemed it fit to call Jupiter Brihaspati, the large one, the big one. Another popular name for Jupiter is Guru. Guru means the weighty one that attracts everything towards itself. This is why intellectuals, teachers, spiritual guides whom people flock to for advice, guidance and learning are called Gurus. Gurus attract people with their knowledge, wisdom, compassion and benign presence. The word Gurutva Akarshana, that denotes gravitational pull in Sanskrit, comes from this weightiness denoted by the word Guru. The concept of gravity and the very word gravity in modern science seem to have roots in this Gurutva Akarshana. Since Jupiter is the heaviest of all planets and exerts maximum pull on other planets, it was also called Guru. Saturn, the ringed planet, was named Shani, short for Shaneshcharam. Charam means to move. Shani means slowly. Shaneshcharam is one that moves slowly. Saturn is the slowest moving amongst all other major planets visible in the sky, namely Mercury, Venus, Mars and Jupiter. It takes about 30 years to go around the Sun once. All planets in our solar system, Surya Malika, have been given masculine names with the exception of Earth, Bhumi, because of its unique feminine property to give birth to life. The Earth is located at the right distance from the Sun so that it is neither too hot nor freezing. The Earth has a thick blanket called atmosphere around it. Asteroids falling towards Earth get burnt passing through this thick layer and are not able to damage life here. The Earth thus has incubated life in her womb, a very feminine characteristic. While the atmosphere is transparent to the naked eye, there are texts that mention each of its layers with their functions and properties. These names are found in texts written centuries ago by many eminent astronomers.
Om Avahah Pravah Udvahas Tatha Samvahas Suparipurvakau Vahau Saptamastu Pavanah Paravahah Kirtitah Kumarudavaha Paraihi Om.
The names of these atmospheric layers can provide clues for research because the names themselves indicate their properties. The moon influences life on Earth in many subtle ways. If the sun gives us light and energy, the moon is linked to fertility. A full cycle of the moon around the earth takes 29 days, the same as a fertility cycle for a woman. The word menses comes from mensum, meaning month. Bees also collect, store, and consume honey in correlation with the moon phases. Modern agricultural science has shown that the growth of plants is also related to cycles of the moon. This link between the moon and fertility on earth has been symbolically represented by a thin crescent moon on Shiva's head. The thin crescent from which growth occurs represents the start of the regeneration process. The human body, like the earth, is about 70% water. A full moon causes a high tide up to 1 meter in the oceans. It is not very surprising then that the moon should exert an influence on humans. Lunatic comes from the word lunar because a full moon deeply affects the mind, and this effect is more visible on those mentally unstable.
The moon appears white to us. There are visible patches on the surface of the moon, which the medieval European astronomers have called mare or sea, as in marine. The Apollo mission, in fact, itself landed on the Sea of Tranquility. But there is this very interesting verse in the Atharvana Veda. It goes, Chandra Madi Krishnam. Chandra meaning moon, Madi soil, Krishnam black, meaning the color of the soil of the moon is black. And the sample brought by Neil Armstrong was also black. The piece of moon rock found in the Kalahari desert was also silver grey or black in color. This is such a very interesting fact.
The very word Ammavasya has a scientific inherent meaning. Amma means together. Vasya means to reside, to stay. Ammavasya is when the moon resides in the house of the sun. That is, sun and the moon are together on the same side of the earth. The moon has come home to reside in the ambit of its parent bodies, namely the sun and the earth. The word Purnima for the full moon means wholesome, fullness. The first recorded sighting of a comet is said to be on the eve of the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE, whereas we find mention of comets in the Indian text Mahabharata, the events of which can be dated back to 3067 BCE. This text mentions that a comet, Dhumaketu, was sighted in the Pushya Nakshatra and constellation.
Om Abhiksnam Kampate Bhumihi Arkam Rahustatha Grasate Shveto Grahastatha Chitram Samatikramya Tishtati Dhumaketur Mahaghoraha Pushyamakramya Tishtati. Om.
Comets were referred to as Dhumaketu. Ketu means tail and Dhuma means smoky, gaseous. Dhumaketu is one with a gaseous tail. Comets are objects which streak across the sky with a fuzzy tail. Ancient texts talk of thousands of comets which have been classified into 12 varieties. One of the earliest records of an eclipse was in 50 CE during the times of Julius Caesar. This is one of the earliest references of an eclipse from the West. Whereas in India, the earliest recorded eclipse was during the times of Rama, and this can be dated astronomically to 7th October 5077 BCE, around 3 p.m. It occurred when Rama met Kar and Dushan in the forest. The text clearly speaks of a solar eclipse in that afternoon. The Vedas mention that the earliest observation and recording of an eclipse was done by Rishi Atri. He not only observes it but records and names this phenomenon as well. He calls it Grahana, which means to hold, occupy. In an eclipse, when the sun, moon and earth are in a straight line, the light from the sun is blocked or caught hold of by the earth in case of a lunar eclipse, and by the moon in case of a solar eclipse, respectively.
The lifespan of a stargazer is only a few decades. For them to have observed the skies for thousands of years regularly and meticulously recorded them in the Jyotisha texts tells us a few things. 1. There was a body of observers through the ages. 2. There were voluminous records for them to refer to. And 3. Beyond doubt, the history and practice of night sky observations in India goes back many a millennia.
No wonder then the Indian stargazers are called Dirgatama. Dirga means long, Tama means night. Dirgatama are the people who have been observing the night sky throughout the ages. In medieval Europe, the observations were sporadic and did not last beyond the lifetime of the observer and his immediate followers. That's the reason why the theories expounded by them have sometimes been contradictory. Some of the prominent astronomers, like Copernicus, Johannes Kepler and Galileo, came up in spurts and propounded their theories. In contrast, in India, there have been a continuous flow of Jyotish school recordings, be it the Kerala school, the Bengal school, the Nalanda school, the Varanasi school, the Ujjain school, the Rajasthani school or the Kashmir school. They all collaborated at regular intervals with their findings. It is this compendium of various schools that make up the body of the Siddhanta Jyotisha text.
This indicates to us that there have been a long lineage of night sky observers who have recorded their observations, their voluminous observations in palm leaf manuscripts. According to some estimates, only about 7% of these manuscripts have been read and translated into the English language. The balance 93% of them have not been read and they are rotting. It is indeed sad that in our own lifetimes we are seeing the loss of 5 million of observations, the knowledge it has of the night sky.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above what you are, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
The word star shares its root with the Sanskrit word sthira, meaning stationary, because stars appear not to move in the sky. Stars do move, but at such a slow rate that their movement becomes noticeable only across thousands of years. But man's observation and recording in a lifetime is only for a few decades. In such a short time span, stars are practically stationary. Since they are relatively constant in the sky, stars can be used as markers. Stars are called nakshatra, comes from nakshate, meaning to arrive at, attain. Naksha for map also comes from this word. A map is that which helps one arrive at a location. Nakshatra is a part of the naksha, the map in the sky. Nakshatra are akin to the points in the map and help to fix the locations of the moving objects in the sky. Everything in the sky is moving. This is true for a galaxy too. But because of its large mass, it moves comparatively slowly. A galaxy is appropriately called Mandakini. Manda meaning slow, Mandakini meaning slow moving.
Let us look at some of the prominent stars, their names and their meanings in Jyotisha, Indian astronomy.
The Centauri constellation in the southern sky hosts the closest star to our Sun, Proxima Centauri. The current name is Proxima Centauri because it is the proximate one to our Sun. Its Indian name is Mitra, friend. This is not a star that is easily visible in the sky. It is just a speck among the other stars. Even when magnified, it is still a speck. It is amazing as to how among the bunch of stars that they were able to correctly name it as Mitra, the closest one. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is called Akash Ganga because it looks like a frothy white river in the night sky. Lambda Scorpio, Mula. The region around the star, Lambda Scorpio, in the tail of the Scorpio constellation is called Mula. Moolam Nakshatra in Indian traditional astronomy. The word Mula means root or base. Bhari means fanning out. The name of this star means the base or root from which the stars are fanned out. True to its name, this region in the sky between Scorpio and Sagittarius marks the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the hub from which the entire galaxy emerged. This is the womb of the galaxy where thousands of stars are being born. How did they so correctly pinpoint this location and call it Mula Bhari, meaning to fan out from its root?
In the neck of the same Scorpio constellation, there is a star, a red star, which is called Antares in modern European astronomy. Antares means rival to Mars. It rivals Mars in redness and brightness in the sky. It is as red as Mars. Now this star is actually just the 17th brightest star in the sky. This star has been called Jyeshta in Indian astronomy. Jyeshta means eldest or the big one. Why would they call it Jyeshta or the big one when it is only just 17th brightest star in the sky? For this, if you look at the sizes, let's look at the sizes. Earth to Sun, when you compare, the Earth is just 1/100th of the size of the Sun. This huge Sun is very tiny, a speck when compared to Arcturus in the Buddhist constellation. Arcturus is a giant star. This giant Arcturus is a point when you compare it with Antares, which is the big one. And therefore, you see that our ancients seem to have known of this fact that Antares, even though is just a 17th bright star in the sky, is actually the biggest in our galaxy, and they have aptly given it the name Jyeshta, the eldest or the big one.
Antares, Jyeshta, the big one. The biggest one was identified and named suitably 7,000 years ago itself by the Indian astronomers. What sight or what insight did they have to catch this large one is something again to marvel upon. Were these characteristic names just a coincidence? To ensure that the scientific knowledge, the characteristics of each of these astronomical bodies gets transmitted through the generations, stories were woven around these names. We thus have these popular stories where the stars blend into people. The naming of Mizar Alcor, the double star in the Ursa Major constellation, also known as the Great Bear, as Vasishtha and Arundhati, has a very interesting legend attached to it. Sage Vasishtha is very well known in Indian history as the preceptor to Surya Vamsha, the solar dynasty. The illustrious King Rama belongs to this lineage. Vasishtha was respected by one and all for his knowledge and sagacity. His wife, Arundhati, was as virtuous as he was learned, and they complemented each other's qualities. While solemnizing marriages in India, the newlywed couples are shown Mizar Alcor star in the constellation Ursa Major called Saptarishi Mandala in Indian astronomy. Mizar is called Vasishtha in Indian astronomy and is one of the 7 great sages in the Saptarishi Mandala. Mizar in modern astronomy has been identified as a star with a companion called Alcor. This Alcor was known in Indian astronomy and given the name Arundhati, the name of Vasishtha's wife. The Mizar-Alcor pair is thus a double star. Usually, a double star has a smaller star going around a bigger star. In this case, however, the stars are sized and separated such that they both appear to go around one another when observed from the Earth.
The message of this double star to the newly marrieds is so that one doesn't dominate the other in life, but they complement each other in their to have a happy married life, as is the case with the noble Arundhati and Vasishtha. The ancient seers understood this and gave it as a wise message in the form of a ritual at the time of marriage. This knowledge of this double star and its concept of revolution, its concept of unique revolution, has been mentioned in multiple texts.
Trishanku was a king of the Solar dynasty who lived many generations before Rama. In his vanity, he wanted to ascend to the heavens in his physical body. Natural law does not allow it, and so he pleaded with Rishi Vishwamitra to make it happen. By his yogic powers, Rishi Vishwamitra prepared to send him to the heavens, but his journey was stopped midway by the forces of nature. In modern astronomy, the star Trishanku is called Crux, which is part of the constellation the Southern Cross. In Indian mathematics, each exponential power of 10 has a name. For instance, 10 raised to the power of 2 is called Varga, 10 raised to the power of 3 is called Ghana, 10 raised to the power of 4 is called Varga Varga. These names exist till 10 to the power of 84. In this series, 10 to the power of 13 is called Shanku. Trishanku would mean 3 into 10 to the power of 13. In Jyotisha, the unit to measure distance is called Mahayojana. 1 Shanku Mahayojana is equal to 68 light years. Trishanku Mahayojana would then be 3 times 68, which is 204 light years. According to modern astronomy, the star Crux or Trishanku is about 205 light years away.
Let us go back to the story of Trishanku once again. There could be another interpretation. If you look at the Milky Way galaxy, it's a spiral galaxy. The solar system and the Earth are in one of the arms, and the various stars are in the other arms. Now, with the relative motion between the solar system, which is going around the galaxy, center of the galaxy, and the Trishanku system, which is also going around the center of the galaxy, there could have been positions where the Trishanku star would have appeared to be moving away from the sun or the Earth, and later falling back towards the Earth again and stopping at one point, which is about 204 light years that we measure today. Most of the Indian legendary stories in astronomy have a hidden meaning which seem to relate to some astronomical celestial event. Could this also be one of them?
We say that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But the sun also has an annual north-south journey between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Since the tropics are at 23.5 degrees from the equator, this is a 47-degree movement. And due to this movement, the east, where the sun rises every day, is not constant and only matches the true east on 2 days of the equinox, when the sun passes through the equator on its northward and southward journey. How then does one locate the true east on other days? The marker for this is the Kritika Nakshatra, which has marked the true cardinal east through the year, through centuries and millennia. When we call the science of astronomy as Ganita Jyotisha, it implies that everything in the sky can be pinpointed using mathematical calculations. For these calculations, one needs to know the true east and the equator of the sky throughout the year to calculate every other star position from it.
All the stars in Pleiades have been assigned alphanumeric names in modern astronomy. In Jyotisha, in the Upanishads itself, each of these stars of the Kritika constellation have been given individual names.
Om Ambayai Swaha Dulayai Swaha Nitanke Swaha Bhrayanke Swaha Meghayanke Swaha Varshayanke Swaha Chupunikaye Swaha Om.
This means these individual stars have been observed, recorded and assigned names over 5,000 years back itself. All these stars have been given feminine names. This could not have been randomly done or given the name of the discoverer's wife or daughters. What could be the reason for giving feminine names to the stars of Kritika?
We all know that stars go through 3 stages in their life: birth, infancy, followed by a fertile stage where they can give birth to their own solar systems, and then they finally end up either as a spectacular supernova or a black hole. Now these Kritika stars, they have been given feminine names. Could it be that these stars are in their fertile stage of life and are capable of giving birth to their own planets and their own solar system?
In the Indian legend, Kartikeya, also known as Skanda, is the second son of Shiva. He is called Kartikeya because as a child he was nurtured by 6 maidens, Kritikas. 6 vestal virgins also appeared in the pre-Christian law of Rome, which has been derided as pagan. Their roles was to tend to the eternal flame, the flame of life. There is a similarity between the 2 legends. Could they be pinpointing to the same natural phenomena? Could it be related to the life-nurturing capacity of the Kritika Nakshatra? Kriti means skin and Kritika means to tear the skin, to remove layer by layer. Could this name be a clue to how the Pleiades constellation was formed or is forming?
We see a similarity between the 6 vestal virgins of Rome and the 6 Kritika maidens in the Indian legends. Both are 6 in number. Both attended to the spark of fire, the seed of light. If you really look at it, the ancient civilizations of the world seem to have their legends which talk about the sciences in nature or astral events. They're very similar. There seems to have been knowledge that has been shared across these civilizations, perhaps by the knowledge travelers who moved and traveled across these civilizations. And most of them seem to be nature-based.
Sirius is the brightest star in the whole sky and is part of the constellation Canis Major. Canis comes from the root word canine and therefore it is also called the dog star. Canis Minor constellation is also besides Canis Major.
In Indian legends, this Sirius constellation is called Uma Gauri, indicating that it is a twin star. And Gauri, the word Gauri means pale, white, indicates that one of the twin stars is a white star. It is only in 1767 that Englishman John Mitchell proposed that the Sirius is a twin star system, and in 1804 William Herschel confirmed this and called them Sirius A and Sirius B. Now Indian legends also go one step further and propose this to be Kala Bhairava form of Shiva with Canis Major and Canis Minor, 2 dogs which go along with him. Kala Bhairava has 2 dogs going along with him. And the word Canis means dog, canine. Does there seem to be some connect?
The star field that we see at night is demarcated into 88 constellations according to modern astronomical tables. Each constellation has a common name and a scientific name. The common name is generally taken from the Greek legends. One of the most popular ancient Greek heroes is Hercules or Heracles. In Greek legends, Heracles fights the serpent Draco. In the sky, the constellation of Heracles is seen facing the constellation of Draco. These two constellations in the Indian texts are known as Shauri and Vasuki. Shauri means the brave one, and Vasuki is the legendary serpent who was used as a rope around the mountain to churn the ocean with.
Shauri is the grandfather of Krishna. So the army of Krishna is called Shurasena. The name Krishna is also referred to as Hari Krishna, which is phonetically similar to Heracles. After Krishna's lifetime, around 3000 BCE, the people who migrated westwards took the legend of Krishna along with them over the western parts of India, Afghanistan, Persia, Turkey, and from there on to Greece. And in the year of 500 BCE or thereabouts, the concept of Heracles was introduced in the Olympus of Greece. In the legend of Krishna, we see Krishna subduing the serpent Kaliya. In the legend of Heracles, we see him subduing the Hydra. The similarity of this legend, which we see on land, has been taken to the skies in the form of the similarity of the legend of this constellation and the naming of this constellation.
We all know that the Earth is part of the solar system and the Sun is at the center. Now this Sun is part of the Milky Way galaxy, but it is not at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. It is on one of the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. The arm on which the Sun is located is called the Orion arm. And it is called so because there is a constellation called the Orion constellation which is located on this arm. This Orion constellation is called Orion the Hunter as per Western astronomy.
The star Lambda Orionis in this constellation is called Mrigashirasa in Indian astronomy, meaning head of a deer. The Orion constellation was pictured as a mriga, a deer. This star Lambda Orionis is located at the head of this deer figure, hence the apt name. But look further. The Orion constellation is also where one can locate a nebula called the Horsehead Nebula, which is a star factory. Deer is called Mriga in Sanskrit. Could the similarity between a horse's head and a deer's head be another reason for our ancients to picture the Orion constellation as a deer and hence the head of the deer as Mrigashirasa? If you look at the brightest star in Orion, Betelgeuse, as per Western astronomy, it is called Arudra in Indian astronomy, and this star is linked with Lord Shiva. As per Indian legends, there is a tale of Shiva chasing a deer. Shiva is very closely associated with a deer, Mriga, and we find the same thing being depicted in the skies. We see an interesting connect here again. Aries, Mesham. Aries is shown as a ram, the goat. We find the ram is given special significance in the ancient Egyptian civilization. The temple of Amun, Karnak, Luxor, where the primary deity of Egypt is placed, holds the ram on the ramparts all along its walls. In this Aries constellation, known as Mesham, the primary star Alpha Aries is called Ashwini. Ashwini are twin gods indicating a twin star.
Mesham, Aries, is the first star sign in the zodiac. Why is Aries the first star sign? Why can't any other star be the first? After all, it's all cyclical. To answer this question, we need to look at Jyotisha. Indian astronomy. Here we have a concept of Kali Yuga, which started on 18 February 3102 BCE at 02 hours 30 minutes 23 seconds, when all the planets of the solar system along with the sun came in an alignment pointing towards the star Aries Mesham. So this is the benchmark, the point from which the new calendar of Kali Yuga starts. Thus for this era, this Yuga, Aries is the first star sign in the zodiac. This concept from Jyotisha, Indian astronomy, has also been borrowed by Egyptian astronomy, for in their main temple in Karnak, Lakshya, they have the ram all along the ramparts of the main temple, the temple of Amun. From this concept of Aries the ram being the first star sign in the zodiac came into modern astronomy. Such precise observations by ancient Indian astronomers suggest that they were probably telescopes then also. These telescopes were made up of spatika, clear crystals, abrapada, mica and kacha glass. The details of this are given in Nyaya Darsana, written by Gautama, probably around 800 BCE.
India has had a long history of observing and tracking the objects in the skies using observational instruments and aids. Most of them have been lost to time. In this long lineage, here are some of the instruments which are prominently visible to us today. But these are only a few hundred years old. Instruments such as these reflect an age-old ethos of scientific sky observations and recordings. Indian astronomy has evolved through the ages with many illustrious astronomers who are the real stars of Jyotisha. Some of the well-known and the not-so-well-known ones being Varahamihira, Aryabhatta, Bhaskara, Vateshwara, Madhava, Brahmagupta, Rajabhoja. The list of names is as countless as the stars.
We have seen in detail how the Indian knowledge of the skies was not only vast but also very accurate. If you look at it, they have named the stars, the constellation, the planets so aptly and accurately that they not only corroborate with the legends of India, but they also tally so well with the findings being thrown up by modern astronomy today. This just could not have been a mere coincidence that they had named them so very scientifically.
The body of work that Jyotisha Shastra has left with us today offers us clues for further research in areas that are unexplored so far. It is up to us now to take up this and research further, or wait for modern astronomy to throw light on more facts.
The problem with the second will be that after all that, we will come back and say, oh, our ancestors knew this 5,000 years ago.
Om Ashwini Bharani Chaiva Kritika Rohini Tatha Mrigashirsho Thachardra Cha Tathaiva Cha Punarvasu Pushyamasle Shapitrubham Phalguni Chottara Tatha Hastachitta Swatibhancha Vishakha Vidhamevacha Anuradha Jyeshthamula Purvashadhastathaivacha Uttarashadhascha Vishnuscha Dhanishtasha Tatarakam Purva Bhadrottara Bhadra Revati Rikshamevacha Om